Hi guys, I'm Janelle,
And I'm Ray.
and you're watching BB Talk. This is episode 8, 9.
9. Wait. 9, yes.
Okay, this is episode 9.
Which is ironic because 9 being the number of endings and new beginnings. Mm-hmm. And then today is the solar eclipse, or was the solar eclipse, or whatever that was.
Okay.
So
What does that mean?
So from what I have just gathered is that this eclipse is not about manifesting or starting new things. It's more about destroying old things and old patterns. It's like Aries and fire or something like that. Mm-hmm. So it's
Aries season, yeah.
Yeah, it's something like that. But it's more about this is the time to let go of old things and destroy them, and then not as much about as manifesting. But it's just it's also an ending of a 2-year cycle that Capricorns and Virgos and Libras go through. So
What's your sign?
Pisces. So
Do you know your big 3?
Pisces, Taurus, and
Taurus.
I don't know
I think
the
you're double
3.
Taurus or something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
Cool.
Uh-huh.
And then I'm a Capricorn sun, Cancer rising, and Taurus moon. So we have the same moon, Taurus.
Yeah. No, totally. Yeah. That's right. That's what it is. Yeah. We both have the same personality. But all of that stuff aside, today was some sort of eclipse, and we should start seeing new things happening. So interesting that it's the 9th, that the 9th BB Talk falls on today, the day of the eclipse.
What a coincidence.
Well, that's cool.
Cool. What is there anything this week that's made you happy that you can think of? It sticks out.
Oh yeah, Isa's birthday.
Oh yeah,
we gifted her a computer.
That was fun. I want to insert the clips here if I remember, but my little sister, she just turned 22, and she's been asking for a gaming PC for the longest, and luckily Ray knows all about computers, and he could make a computer in less than an hour. So we were able to get all the funds together and surprise her with a Miffy gaming PC, and she was very happy, and I was very happy that we were able to make it happen. So thank you.
Yeah, I almost gave it away too. I almost thought I said too much, and then I was able to still cover it up to where I think she was still surprised.
Yeah, what we did was when it was time to open gifts, we gifted her a little a blind box Miffy character, because that's her favorite, and we set it up to as if that was her gift. Basically, it was just her gift to put into her PC as a little figurine. So it was really fun and really memorable, and I hope she enjoys her birthday more so.
Yeah,
so, yeah.
And she's 22 now, so good for her.
She's 22.
You know, it's interesting because that party, I knew those were going to be all of her friends and some church friends or whatever from your guys' side. And as a 30-plus-year-old, I was really interested to see what these people are talking about and what they value, you know. And so I talked to a few of the guys, and I talked to other people too. But their priorities are mainly, it's exactly what you would think from young people that are in college, you know. It's relationships and other people and partying and social things and video games. And so
What were you when you were 22? Where were you at physically in the world, and what were you doing?
That was 11 years ago. So that was 2014. 2014.
Damn, that was a long time ago.
2014, I remember I was an RA at Michigan State University.
Oh my God.
And I was the coolest RA ever. Everybody respected me there because I was never in anybody's business, and I was still fair, and I still gave them chances to show me that I can trust them and stuff. For example, this was on the west side of Michigan State, where it's the last big hall. Yeah, I remember I was tasked with I was supervising the third floor, the west wing of the third floor, and I remember like these are all like 18, 19-year-old kids. These are freshmen, sophomores, right? Mostly freshmen, actually. Some international students. The international students didn't care about anything other than playing League and buying supercars, basically. That's all they cared about. And then the other people, they kind of just, like, nobody was really friends on the floor, which made things easier for me, you know? At the end of the day, yeah, I was an RA at that time, and I remember that was an interesting time because I had applied to a hotel internship because I was in the hospitality business school. And I remember I got the internship at the hotel, and my entire summer plan was that I was going to be an intern at this hotel and just do an internship there because to graduate, you need to fulfill 2 internships. So that was going to be my first of 2 internships. And I remember getting the internship, and then the day after I told them, because I was like in the Filipino association, I was like, hey, so sorry, is it okay if we move my start date back because I have to go to this conference for the Filipino association, blah blah blah, all this stuff, which really is just like we go to Chicago and we meet up with the other FSA and we drink and party, and then the next day we have conferences that nobody really cares about because everyone's still hungover. And I remember they were like, okay, that's fine, but then they also had their schedule in military time. And so when I came back on that Monday, I thought I was starting at 8 p.m. I don't know why I saw 8 and I was like, okay, 8 p.m., you know. But it was actually 8 a.m., so I missed clocking in. So I woke up like 2 hours late, and I called them, and they were like, yeah, sorry, you're fired. And I was like, damn. So I had just lost my internship literally the day after getting back.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And was it my fault? 100%. Because I should have seen the other numbers. I should have seen, okay, 1700. Yeah, I'm saying, like, okay, it's military time. But I was like, I don't know what in my mind was like, okay, it's AM, PM. So
That happens.
lost my internship, ended up getting another internship, which was way worse of a setup.
Oh,
It was
fuck.
way worse, but I fulfilled the thing. So
Okay.
I was like, fuck it, okay. Basically, there's this amusement park called Cedar Point in Ohio, in Sandusky, Ohio, butt fuck nowhere. And I was a hotel front desk intern, basically. So,
Damn.
but because the original setup would have been so good, because I would have just stayed in the exact same hall that I was in and just walked across the street to go to the hotel for the summer. Because I would also be like basically working, and it would just be perfect. But then I had to move down to Ohio, basically spend 3 months with people I don't like, I have nothing in common with, people that are just like I had 3 roommates. It was a fucking pigsty. It was terrible.
Oh my Lord.
So that was just, that was my wake up call to just like, take these things seriously. And
Yeah.
it's like, if I would have picked my future over partying in Chicago that weekend, I probably would have been in good standing. But
Okay, you have to learn these things sometimes the hard way.
it just is what it
Maybe
is.
God was protecting you from something bad happening at that initial internship. I don't know.
Potentially, but at the same time, it was such a perfect setup. But I screwed it up, and hey, it's my
You'll
fault.
never do
so-
it again.
Yeah. So.
Okay, cool.
Oh yeah.
Me, when I was 22, what year was that? How old am I? I'm 28. So 6 years ago? 2019?
Yeah.
Oh, I had just graduated FITM, the Fashion Institute of Design and Merchandising in Los Angeles. I hope I'm still recording. And I got a job at a music tech startup called Pollen. Oh my God, there's like a whole documentary on BBC. Long story short, it was started by these 2 30-year-old rich, like Nepo baby British guys, and it was an app that you could purchase like music and travel festival packages, things of that nature. And it was like a job of my dreams in the sense that everyone was super young. The culture was so fun. We would literally, for team bondings, like go out to like festivals and whatnot. And basically they had filed for bankruptcy during, I think, after COVID when I got fired. But that's a whole nother story for another day. But they, I think, were using the funds on like strippers and shit. I don't even know.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it was just, it doesn't exist anymore, but that was a really fun time. And I also had my fair share of like fuck ups during that time too.
Makes sense. That's how
But
it
I'm
goes.
glad that we are wise in where we are now. So that's good.
Yeah. No, that's true. Yeah. I know we keep talking about like these ideas and revelations that we're having and how it feels like every time we have a new revelation, we're starting from zero.
In terms
And
of
like,
weight loss
yeah, well, in terms
or
of
in
like
life.
weight loss or in terms of life or whatever. And I think the download that I'm getting about that is that like we're not starting from zero again. We're just hitting another milestone that's going to cause another wave of changes,
I believe
which
that.
we wouldn't have gotten to
Had we
if we
not.
were still on day zero, right? So this is,
Yeah.
technically day 100 something, and it's just another one of the realizations. So, so, and you had another revelation today that made you feel like that. So, would you like to enlighten what you learned?
Yeah, well, it all kind of started when like just to give some give some context. My sleep has been something that's just really fucked my shit up, especially working, the typical 9 to 5 and trying to be on a weight loss journey. I realized that sleep is the one like core thing that I haven't gotten optimized, and that's why it's not just the sleep, but it's it leads into other things, but it's just the catalyst of actually seeing real progress for me, because when I don't properly sleep, my cortisol levels are up, and then it's hard for me to stay in my deficit, and then I don't have the energy to work out, etc. But I had this revelation and download that, well, I guess these past few weeks, we've been purposely trying to lower both of our stress levels, but specifically mine, because for women, I feel like they're more susceptible to having high cortisol, which equates to just not losing weight and holding on to, excess fat and whatnot. So I recently got ChatGPT Plus, which is, I 10 out of 10 recommend it. But after using ChatGPT as my therapist slash nutritionist slash everything, it led me to find out that cortisol is directly linked to like your insulin levels and sugar. So even though I feel like I've been doing a good job of like working out, trying to stay within a deficit, I think the fact that I never really looked at my sugars wasn't helping at all with my cortisol levels. In turn, I couldn't sleep. For example, like the other night, I had a bowl of cinnamon toast crunch for dinner, and I was wondering like why I had the shittiest sleep of my life. And I think it was just because I went to bed carb loading and just not having the sufficient amount of protein. So I also had a sleep tracker this week, so I would track like every day that I slept and what were the things I did. Did I have caffeine? Did I go to the gym? What time? What did I eat? And at first I thought it was because I was trying to start my fast a little too early, like when I was eating dinner at like 6, or if it was because I was drinking matcha. But basically it's none of those things. It was just the fact that I probably shouldn't be having as much added sugars in my diet. And I'm just going to try this out for the next 2 to 3 weeks, which works out considering we're going to go on a trip. And I can kind of predict what's going to happen. I'm going to probably like it and feel better. And then I could start really thinking about how I'm going to make this for the rest of my life. So that's basically
cool.
it.
Nice, yeah. Yeah, we have a very special trip coming up.
Yay!
Which I remember you made the executive decision that you'll be taking off that week. And then
Weekend.
that weekend, and then we'll just
Do something.
we just did something. So yeah, so we're gonna go to Florida, and
Yay!
it'll be a interesting trip.
Oh, cool. It'll be fun.
It'll be fun.
But yeah, that's kind of the journey I'm on. This time, instead of just being like, I'm cutting sugar cold turkey, from what I've learned, like what you said, from our whole fitness journey, and feeling like we started over, a big takeaway for me is I have to set myself up for success and be realistic. So I did the first thing. I made the decision that, I'm going to cut out refined sugar and refined carbs for the next 2 or 3 weeks. But then after that, I think the past me would just be like, okay, I made the decision and then I'm just not going to like touch any sugar. But knowing me, that's not sustainable because I eat sugar every day. And this kind of goes with the book where you just change the process and not the habit. I realized if I'm being real with myself, I'm going to have sugar cravings. So rather than just cutting out sugar completely, I looked at my diet, and this helped because we had MyFitnessPal, and I was able to see what I've been eating on the regular. And for one thing, my protein shakes have had so much sugar, which is funny because the protein shakes that we've been drinking, or I've been drinking, it's the Fruity Pebbles one. So I'm sure there's a lot of sugar in that, but I was like, okay, like breaking my fast every day on something high sugar can't be like, that's instantly raising my insulin levels. So we went to Central Market, which I fucking love that place, by the way, but I intently looked at my options of protein, and it actually helps because there's not a lot of protein shakes that have 0 sugar. And I found this one. I just kind of went off vibes and hoped that it would taste good. And it's called like I don't know, PRIR or something, but it's actually really good. And it didn't taste exactly the best, obviously, because it's sugar. It's lacking the sugar. So I improvised and I put my Starbucks sugar-free vanilla syrup in there. It's still 0 sugar, but it tastes so much better. And it's like, whenever I find these solutions, it makes these big changes feel that much more doable. Whereas if I'm like, okay, I'm not going to have this, I'm going to be miserable, and then I'm going to just relapse on the sugar addiction. So I just looked at those things. Another thing was my yogurt. I was eating those Chobani flips, which are so fucking good and convenient, but a lot of added sugar on that. So now I opted for just Greek yogurt and the lowest amount of sugar granola. So that's what I'm having. And I feel a lot better about that.
I remember, and the thing is like that was like a revelation that I didn't even have a theory for. I remember we were fixing the diet and like focusing on protein and eating like good stuff. And I would say that figuring out that was sugar for you, like once I heard that, everything made sense.
Oh, good.
Everything made sense.
I know.
Because it was usually whenever we worked on the diet, for example, I remember we'd eat more protein and let's do this and let's do that. And I never even considered the sugar, which is interesting because after I stopped drinking sodas and carbonated drinks that have sugar in them, I started to feel like just a lot better and just started drinking water. So the things I didn't even equate that at all because you never drink any sodas or any things like that. And then once I heard that she said, I think I'm addicted to sugar and stuff like that, everything made sense because the proteins that we would get were straight up loaded with sugar, and I never realized that. And then all the other things that like the yogurts loaded with sugar and all these things, and I'm just like, oh my god, it is the sugar. So I think figuring out that it was sugar was the final clue, and I think solidifying the good habit is now the final boss.
Yep.
And I think once you conquer that, I think you'll just finally shine like the sun. So
I definitely I want to speak this into its existence, or like I want to choose my words wisely, but I had insulin resistance. I still have it, but I no longer am on the path to being insulin resistant. Like, for example, y'all, I had never had this before when I was skinny, obviously, but I had this like dorsal hump on the back of my neck that was like especially prominent when we first started dating. It's gone down, but it's still like an insecurity of mine. And I was like, damn, is it because I'm like slouching and stuff? And I feel like the posture has something to do with it. But I learned that when you have insulin resistance, you get that like fat over there, and then you get cortisol moon face, which is something that I still kind of have. It's gotten a lot better, but you can just tell, like when your face is puffy, it's because of the refined sugars and carbs and sodium, high sodium in your diet. But I've seen like so many transformations on TikTok too, when people just cut out sugar for 2 weeks and their face just like, it just gets sculpted. And I'm like, okay, I clearly can't lose like 50 pounds in the next 3 weeks before our vacation, but I could definitely de-bloat and depuff my face by just eliminating sugar until then. So
Yeah.
that's motivation. And then along with that, I am making the conscious decision to be more whole foods based. So I'm trying to avoid things that come in packages, like as far as like pastas and stuff like that. And of course, like little things at a time, but this kind of like, what's the word? A habit that causes other habits to be good. I don't know. But it's helping me think more big picture as far as like my diet and how I want to eat long term. But definitely these things like cost money and time, but I think I said this in the last baby talk, but I rather spend the money and time now on my health than like being in the hospital in the future and just not having the energy to like play with our kids and live life to the fullest. So I'm choosing to have my future self will thank me later. So yeah.
So in line with the eclipse, you're just destroying all your bad habits from the past, which makes sense.
Yeah, and that everything had to happen. Everything happened the way it had to get to this point, considering like I had to cut like my social media addiction. Like I only use social media like sparingly now, or definitely not as much as before, and like just like little things I had to overcome before I could even get here. Like the Adderall was a big thing. Like so now I'm just taking on every little thing in my life that just doesn't align with my goals.
That's good. That's fantastic. If it's anything like when I quit vaping nicotine back in 2022 and 23, if it's anything like that, it's going to just be all about slowly rationing it down while still having something to replace it with.
Yeah.
And then eventually you'll get to a point. And the thing is, like, quitting addictions like this it's a multi-month process. But as long as, like, it gets to a point where after a few weeks you have enough momentum, and whenever you're faced with a challenge or the opportunity to, do I indulge into this, then like there's a thought in the back of your mind which is like, I'm on a 60-day streak. Do I really want to, reset the clock, that kind of thing?
Yeah.
And that's the momentum that keeps you going.
I literally started my sobriety counter again today, but I put sugar as the thing that I'm battling, so it's day one for me.
Nice.
But you're right.
That's fine, yeah. Well, it seemed like it's been quite the journey of just figuring things out one after another. But
yeah, but definitely like what you said, it's a month process, or it may even be easier than that. Who knows? Because bless you. Ever since like I successfully quit the Adderall, I feel like I can quit anything at this point.
that's good.
I know it's not going to be like super easy, but that was like the hardest thing that I ever had to overcome addiction wise. So
Yeah, because when we first started
Easier.
dating, you had just gotten off the Adderall, and you're still taking sleeping medication.
yes, I
And
was taking
you're-
hydroxy.
Yeah, you're all about medications, and
Just dependencies. It was a mindset, really.
yeah, for sure. So
But I really feel like I made a complete like 180 from that, and I'm living a more conscious and holistic lifestyle willingly.
fantastic. Yeah, cool.
And so are you.
Yeah,
I feel.
that's true.
But
What what are you looking forward to in the next, let's say, 2 weeks?
so right now, I think we're kind of in our gaming era. We were in like a little show era, but I want to get back into just gaming and connecting with my inner child again. So I started playing Inzoi. If you guys are familiar, it's like a new life simulation game that's Korean. It's from, it's either Krafton or Kraken. I don't know. It's one of those brands, but it looks like the improved version of Sims. But I haven't gotten into it too much. But I'm really excited to see if this is something that can compare or is even better. I'm very excited about that.
That's cool. Nice.
How about you?
I like to only buy games when they're like on sale. And right now, the only one that's on sale is like Red Dead Redemption 1, which is the remaster version. I know I'm still on the fence if I'm gonna play it or not. I I had successfully scratched my Call of Duty Black Ops itch because it was I had played the first one when it came out in I think like 2012 or something, and that game was a fucking banger. It was amazing, just story wise.
Yeah.
The the multiplayer, I don't really care that much about the multiplayer, but I care about the story. And I have I've just played like the entire sequel and the sequences of the story just to like see what happens, and it was really good. It gets to a point where it's like too easy. You know, like I would max out the difficulty and I would just headshot all the enemies because it's just so easy.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's I still don't really care for the gameplay as much. I just wanted to play for the story. But yeah, other than that, I don't know. I've watched all my Matt Armstrong videos already. I've played all the games I've played so far already. So yeah, I don't know. I think next week feels like I don't know what's gonna happen just yet, but we'll just, let things happen. I finished most of my work and stuff, so
That's good.
yeah. So we went to a conference this week with my business partner. That was really cool.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about that at all?
Yeah, it was fun. It was called Mining Disrupt, and it's a crypto mining vendor conference where people go. It's like suppliers for machines and people that like have products in the industry to sell and stuff like that. And like the thing is, it was fun to just walk around and like see what they had. I met a few Germans. That was cool. Other than that, it's just everyone's just kind of like copy and paste a little bit, except for like one or two vendors that are like doing something like really new or whatever, But it was like everybody sells the same machines. Everyone's the same supplier for these. Everyone has these opportunities and all this, and it's just like it was good that I went there with my business partner at the same time because it was mainly good going there with my business partner because me and him did like business stuff, networking with specific people. So that was good. As far as the conference itself, it was kind of but it was also cool just being part of the business where my business partner knew some people that are like really deep in the industry. And so I got to ride in a Lamborghini Urus for the first time. That was cool,
Nice.
And at the end of the day, it's just like I figured out because we're driving in like Miami, basically it's Fort Lauderdale, right? And so we get picked up in front of the conference in this like gray and orange Lamborghini Urus, which is super cool.
Cool.
This is my first time meeting these people, but they're super fun, like
Aw.
super dope, And then I realized that when you drive around in a really nice car, people around you get salty in like a I don't know how to describe it. So I'll just describe the situation. We're like at a light, and as soon as it turned green, the guy behind us just started honking his horn. And when I looked behind, it was like some 1997 Honda Accord. You know what I'm saying?
What the heck?
And it's just like when you drive nice cars like that, the people that see you drive those cars or whatever, if they just see you make like one mistake or just like take 1 second too long at the light or whatever, they get pissed because they're pissed at themselves for not having done the work it takes to, it's kind of like penis envy kind of thing, But what's interesting is, I had a really good point I was just about to mention about like cars and success, but oh yeah. So whenever you start something new, I think Alex Hormozy said this. When you start a new business or you start a new venture or you do something new, everyone fires you on and everyone's like supportive of you doing it. But then when you become successful and you like really make it to where you can afford nice things, the business is doing great, everyone wants to tear you down. And the reason for that is because when you first start something, when you first start a business, when you first start something, right? You remind everybody else, whether it's your family, your friends, you remind everybody of who they were because they like, I have a dream, you have a dream, they had a dream, You remind everybody that they have a dream, right? So they're supportive. Once you make it and you actually become successful, everyone wants to tear you down because, like, when you first start, you remind people of how much they also had a dream and how they wanted to work at it. And then when you're actually successful, everyone wants to take you down because you remind them of how much they either failed and stopped and gave up, or you reminded them of how unsuccessful they are, or you remind them of the fact that they didn't achieve their dream, you know? And so because you did, it's like the envy of other people it takes you down, which is why I realized that like rich people or successful people, they do not give a fuck about anybody's opinion that's like not lower than them, but that hasn't earned it as much as them, right? And then the people that complain about being stuck where they are. So it's like when you first start out, you remind everybody how much everybody had a dream. And then when you make it, you remind everybody of how much they gave up and failed to get the same thing. And now they work a 9 to 5. And I can't remember if we like ever brought this up, but Kevin O'Leary says that a salary is a bribe that a company gives their employees to basically give up on the dream. Because when you take 40 hours out of somebody's week, that's a lot of hours that could be spent putting it towards something. Because once you come home from work, from your 40 hours of work a week, you don't feel like really doing anything else. Now, the people that are hyper-focused and hyper-successful, they find ways to make that happen, but the general idea is that most people just come home from their work and then they just want to relax and decompress and do all these things, and they don't find the ability to work on their, dream or passion or whatever. And what ends up happening is over time, that belief fully settles in the hypnotic rhythm of I have a job, I gave up on my dream, and then these people become salty when they see other people that made it. And a lot of the times people like to blame it on, oh, this person got lucky, they won the lottery or some sort of, when really it's just opportunity and hard work meet, which is another way of saying luck, really. Because like luck is when opportunity meets preparedness, and then people's dreams come true, right?
I want to talk about something.
Sure.
Yeah. So, for example, like one of my favorite influencers right now, her name's Regan77. Have you heard of her? She's from Dallas too. But I noticed like the more she becomes successful and gets more views and whatnot, the more like she'll do the smallest thing that like isn't right. Like say she'll clean in a weird way. She'll have like so many people comment like correcting her, and I'm like, damn, it's like as if the more she gets successful, the more people just hate on her for the littlest of things. And I think that's just people's way of projecting their own like jealousy, because she's like, I don't know how she's like 22 or whatever, living in the nicest high rise in Dallas and like living her dream life. And it's just kind of comical to see people so pressed about like innocent things. Like when you were 22, obviously we talked about this, like you didn't know how to you didn't know everything. So I feel like not bad, and I can tell she's like in her I don't give a fuck era now, because like you said, it's like there comes a point where you are just continuing on the way of success, and you're just like, I have no fucks to give, and that's just how you do it. But I think it's just so interesting how I think I could also admit there was a point where I wasn't as conscious of a person as I am now, and I think I would also have like some, not animosity, but like maybe some jealousy towards like these influencers that are successful. But now I really try to take it and like observe, like if I get a rise out of seeing an influencer like say go to Korea and getting all like these high expensive like spa treatments and stuff, it's like, what does that say about me? That means I want that. So I notice that if these are the things that I want and that they affect my emotions, then that means it's really important to me, and that's something that I should put on my vision board and work on.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
I think that's cool.
And when she's on a video and she cleans, I don't know, when she cleans and it's like a little bit wrong and everyone's correcting her, it's because at the end of the day, she's still just a normal person. She's a normal person.
Just a baby.
She's just a normal person like everybody else. And so people see that and they're like, man, they're just like me. They fuck up too. They're, you know what I'm saying? But they're more successful. And that reminds me that I gave up on my dream. You know what I'm saying? And then they become salty.
Right.
This is it's so crazy. There was this, I listened to one of the emergency meetings from Andrew Tate one time, and he talked about this very interesting example of how the thought energy of other people affects you, right, or affects each one of us.
Because we're
In
a collective conscious.
yeah, exactly, yeah. He's basically saying that I like if he was basically saying that Andrew Tate, he loves haters. He loves hate because what the way he describes it is everybody that is hating on him. And the thing about haters versus the people that are supporters, the haters are way louder, right? They leave way more hateful stuff, you know? So what happens is they'll comment more, they'll think more about this person. And the way he described it is whenever somebody thinks of me or when everybody burns calories to generate a thought that is like, I hate Andrew Tate, they're thinking of Andrew Tate, and that thought feeds his life.
Like energy.
Yeah, it's like they're like haters are projecting their thought energy onto him. And what happens is he says it makes him more powerful. And the reason it does that is because when other people create thoughts, whether it's good or bad. And Gary Vee, for example, would say that whether it's good or bad, you should ignore both. Not because the bad is bad and you should respond to only the good ones. It's because no comment is inherently negative or positive. Every comment is just neutral. And that's also how Bashar would explain the idea of every experience in anybody's life is not inherently good or bad. It has no built-in meaning. If something bad happens to you, like quote unquote bad, like I don't know, somebody runs over your foot while you're trying to cross the road or whatever, these things are not inherently bad and they're not inherently good. They're just neutral, and it's up to you to assign the meaning of this situation, like based on your experience in your life. So the reason why Andrew Tate loves the haters is because these people will incessantly think about him, comment on his videos, talk shit to him all day long, and it makes him more powerful because these people are collectively generating thoughts about him. And that's how he basically, he would say some stupid shit like, their soul now belongs to me. You know what I'm saying? That's how he said it. And like, you have to kind of read between the lines because everything he says is like 60% satire, 40% actual truth and like the thin meaning of what he's saying, right? So he says, whenever anyone ever thinks about me, their soul now belongs to me and I can use their energy to make my life better and so on and so forth, right? Really what he's saying is the thoughts generated by other people, whether they love or hate you, they make your life experience, they drive it forward, right? So it's kind of like, I don't know if you've ever heard of this story, but like there was this time when like 100 or 1,000 people all gathered in one place and they all collectively thought about world peace. I think the next day or that day or whatever, there was like 60% less crime all around the world kind of thing. You know, so it's the same kind of idea where the thoughts generated by other people feed the people they're thinking about. And because nothing is inherently good or negative, their thought energy now becomes your energy. So, and this is also another reason why I say this at the end of our podcast sometimes, like, leave your best hate comments, or, you know, like, show us your best hates, or like, I can't wait to see all your comments, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
that are terrible, because at the end of the day, none of it is inherently good or bad. And it's really just about us to assign a meaning to it. And it's just an interesting thing of what happens when you are on your journey and you ascend past the noise of where everybody is. Let's say like this is like 100% and then like 80% is right here. Once you do enough work to get above the 80%, now you're an outlier, because now you have demonstrated that you are consistent, you have the habits to become successful, and you have the drive to actually continue on your path. And
Right.
so because of that, what happens is now the 80% are trying to tear you down, and all you have to do is focus on the 20% of the people up top that want to pull you up, right? That are trying to support you, that are, you know, here to mentor you and make you learn about other things. So that's why I welcome the hate comments. I welcome all the people that, you know, say all these things that are like incorrect about, like all the clips that we post on TikTok, for example. I am excited to hear what people are saying, whether it's good or bad, because their comment at the end of the day, if it's a hate comment or whatever, they don't even have to like the video. Them commenting is in a higher rank of the algorithm liking what they're doing. So everyone that comments, they help drive our videos. They help increase our viewership. And now their hate gets us in front of more of their friends. It gets us in front of more of their audience, and so on and so forth. And so I'm just excited, you know, I'm excited to kind of just like see what happens. But yeah, I'm not trying to like manifest anything. I kind of just want to, like, there's this big pile of energies that I'm just waiting to just delete so I can just move forward, because April is going to be a very transformative month.
I think so.
Yeah.
Cool.
So,
yeah. I mean, that's basically it. We don't have too much for this BB talk, but yeah, guys.
Yeah, this is a short one anyway. At the end of the day, like, I still feel kind of sick. So
Yeah.
I just wanted to turn the camera on for the consistency, because we said we were going to do it. And I think if we say we're going to do it, let's just do it, even if though the video is only like 5 minutes long or whatever.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? I think being in the rhythm of setting up and doing stuff, at least we keep our word to ourselves. So
Valid.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll see y'all next time. Bye.
bye-bye.